Google announces the Google Workspace CLI. Obsidian announces the Obsidian CLI. Ramp announces the Ramp CLI for your finances. Stripe announces the Stripe Project CLI to scaffold entire projects from scratch. It seems like every headline is SaaS companies and tools that we rely on as devs turning into CLIs. At first, this feels like some PR stunt to make developers feel heard, but honestly, I think there's some real productivity gains to be had here, and I think it's a sign of SaaS companies leaning into where software is going. So I want to talk about, at a high level, why this is happening, what productivity gains there are to be had, and walk you through some flows using the Google and Obsidian CLIs to automate tasks that you probably do in your day-to-day as a developer. Okay, to start, I'm breaking out the virtual whiteboard. That's how you know it's serious. As developers, we're already super used to sending prompts to agents inside of our terminal, and here's one that I sent yesterday. I was trying to add a copy file path button to the warp terminal, and when the agent starts working, it starts firing off tool calls to figure out how to do its job. So it might start with a read file call, and it has access to your full code repository, obviously. So it thumbs through, finds the file, which in this case might be the overflow menu. Then it zeroes in and starts making its code diff. And then if you're just using these tools, how they behave by default, it'll just say, I'm done, it'll plop you in the directory, and then it's up to you to commit everything and push it for your teammates to review. But now that agents are more capable, I would say most developers respond, no you're not, go ahead and commit that and actually make the pull request. We have a PR template for the description. Take this thing all the way to the last mile. And this is where we start reaching out to external tools. So if you have the GitHub CLI, for example, it'll create that PR with the title and description, or maybe use the MCP server. They're kind of two ways to do the same thing. And this reflects like our expanded definition of what done means. It used to mean the code is written by the agent, then it meant the code is pushed up using the Git CLI, and now it means it's in PR using GitHub. Then when we realized like tool calls as CLIs are really effective, we started getting more creative with the prompts. Like now we're saying, I want to fix this linear issue and maybe paste in a link. Well, now it not only needs access to your code base, it also needs access to your task board. So then you add a connector. In Linear's case, it's an MCP server. I'm using MCP and CLIs interchangeably for this, but either way, you get the point. It's able to go get that linear issue, and then we can stack on all those developer workflows, continuing to read your file system, make the diffs, and then connect to GitHub to complete the loop. Now we're adding one more item to our what does done mean column, where it's able to go fetch information, not just from my prompt, which I have to craft myself, well, that's boring. I'd rather it go straight to where my team is actually discussing or working on features, which could be Slack if you connect a Slack bot to your channel, or it could be Linear where you're tracking a more detailed issue. Now, as developers, this is enough because we're just the ICs that are implementing everything. But obviously, people in the engineering space and also the product and design spaces are doing a lot more stuff way ahead of here using agents as well. Like before that issue gets created, maybe your team drafted an architecture doc and you need some way to collaborate on that with an agent and then pull it into context to work on that issue. And even further up the chain, you need to go through all of your customer analytics, wherever those are being pulled in, to decide what to build in the first place. That might be as simple as going through your issue logs, or it might be a more complex flow of using like Metabase analytics, looking at customer telemetry, and deciding what features should be drafted. You could honestly break these down into two parts of the product lifecycle, where you have your implementation, where you're doing all of your coding, but you also have the research phase, where you're deciding what to build, tracking it out, and delegating. And until now, these pieces have more or less been on separate islands, where you can use MCP servers to bridge the gap so that it has the context to then implement. But you've kind of been forced to use different agents and different stacks in order to work in each of these spaces. Where if you're working on the implementation, you're using CLI agents like Claude Code and Codex. And if you're doing stuff over here, you're doing web portals, or you're using AIs that are like baked into each SaaS that you're working with. And this is so frustrating because as soon as you start working on Docs in Google Docs, for example, to work out architecture, or you start working with any SaaS or analytics service to pull things out like Notion or something like that, you can't bring your AIs to the party. Those AIs that you've kind of trained with all those skills, they don't really work over here because they're all in their own data silos. Now we've reached a point where it's not just developers using these things, it's product managers, designers, and everyone else. And so to pull these data out of these SaaS sandboxes into the tools they actually want to use, they're exporting everything as Markdown. I'm doing this myself. Anytime I'm working with the team on Google Docs, I usually hit the export as Markdown button, put it onto my file system, so I can then use a proper agent to actually do something with it. And so that brings us to CLIs. And we've seen a whole lot of them over the past few weeks. There's a Workspace CLI, which makes Google Drive and Calendar and a bunch of other services accessible to agents. I will show you the setup process. It's pretty rocky, but once you're there, it does mean you break down the wall of architecture docs and things, and you can have agents work on spreadsheets with you. And in the note-taking arena, of course, there's Obsidian. It was already Markdown-based, but now that there's a CLI, you can actually put automations around it. And then there's the big list of MCPs that exist, which are giving the same sort of thing. Notion, Linear, Granola, all the cool companies in SF, they're doing it. And then there's weirder ones like Ramp, which is a finance and reimbursement company. They have a CLI now. I can show you what that looks like. You can do some fancy things. And also Stripe, that's not only making their financial side accessible, but they're also building a full project scaffolding service to see how much of this moat that they can actually start helping you with. And this more or less breaks down the barrier that I mentioned earlier. Before you were kind of tossing things over a wall, but now you're using the same tool stack across the whole thing, and we're just pulling out back-end information to use the same tooling. All right, let's talk about actually using these things. I'm going to show y'all the Google Workspace CLI, just general overview. Their docs do a decent job. There's actually a couple details that I want to fill in. So you install it, you run auth setup, and once you select your email, you can make a GCP project. If you're like, why am I making a project? That's how the authentication system works. There's no way for them to just authenticate you with Google. You actually need to build an app, add a login form to that app, and then use that login form to then authenticate this CLI. That sounds crazy. It kind of is. It'll at least redirect you though, so you create a new client. You can set it to whatever app you want. It's not really an app at all. I just chose desktop. And then you just copy the client ID in secret and paste it into the terminal. And then once all those credentials are saved, you can actually choose what it has access to. I believe this is the reason they have you create a project, so that you can manage the permissions from their panel without their team having to build out a whole new panel just for people using this CLI. In any case, I've selected Google Docs, Sheets, Drive, and Calendar. And once you authenticate everything, you can decide what the granular permissions should be. They do give some very nice warnings in here in case you're wondering, how permissive do I want to be? The recommended flow actually does allow write access to these agents. In my experience, you do want write access for documents. If that makes you uncomfortable, you can create a separate Google account and have the agent do all of its work inside of there. And then any documents or spreadsheets you create or read, you can just use like the share button to share it with your work account. But I personally decided to trust the process, yes, even for things I do at work, and allow it to write to spreadsheets and docs. And this is a really important part. I love it when companies add skills alongside the CLIs. Not everyone's doing this. Google luckily did it here, and it ensures, in the basic case, the agent's aware that CLIs exist, and in the best case, it knows exactly how to hold the CLI so it doesn't burn tokens using help commands. You can see Google was very thorough with all of the skills that exist. I'm specifically going to install the doc skills. I already have the sheet skills set up. Now you can use agents to work with stuff in your Google Drive. A tangible way to make sure it works is pulling in Google Docs as context to work on a task. We create architecture docs that we work on as a team just because the shareable feature in Google Drive is convenient. This was one that we wrote for planning out the structs that we're going to build to add planning mode to Warp. This one's a little bit older, but it should be a good way to try out our coding agent. Turn this architecture diagram into a multi-phase plan to implement the structs in the codebase. We'll likely need a new directory to start. It should be implemented as a new pane type. Once you have everything set up, skills and CLI, you can pretty much do free-form prompting and the agent knows what to do. Then the agent will compare that doc against the current state of the code base to decide what the next course of action is going to be. Now, this is kind of useful. It's read-only. It saved you from an export. But I think it's more interesting when you start letting agents interact. I actually have an example that's a bit more on the data science and content creation side, but it's still useful because at this point I feel like engineers are dipping into other silos. Here, I wanted to aggregate all the data from our live streams and actually see if it improves usage of our app if you've attended. And we have access to our analytics silo inside of this project right here. So I decided to tell an agent, I want you to pull this information down. I want you to use some skills inside of here in order to grab the customer data. And then I want you to output, well, I started with the CSV, but then eventually output a Google spreadsheet that summarizes all of the findings across all of our feature usage, AI responses, etc. At the end, I got this very useful and shareable table right here. And of course, all these numbers are exactly what we recorded internally. I didn't change any of these before recording. I'm just that good of a live streamer, and Warp is the best terminal. That's just how it is. From here, though, I would actually give the agent some notes. I noticed, for example, that it's not sourcing the data from this results tab. It's instead just hard coding them from its own analysis. I'm going to ask the agent, use formulas in the summary table pulling out of results so it's not hard-coded values. I'm actually curious if this happens in real time. Let's go ahead and split screen these. And yeah, I think that literally just popped in. Now it's just using formulas. Another day where I wonder what I'm going to use my MBA for. Okay, second thing to talk about is note-taking. This one's going to be more of a developer-friendly tool, Obsidian. If you are a dev, you've probably used it before, mostly because it's a markdown-backed note-taking application that's pluggable with code. I've used it for a number of years just for those reasons, and now that agents can just access the markdown, it's even more obvious. But if that wasn't enough, they still made some CLIs, because there's some workflows that you can't do if you just give agents the markdown, because you also need to sync files, or maybe you want to do automations inside of the Obsidian application itself. So I have my vault cloned onto this machine. And to use the CLI, you just need the latest version of the Obsidian app, and you switch this on, then it'll just register it in your path. It has a number of CRUD APIs, so instead of asking an agent to grep through, you can have it use the search query tool to get fast indexing. That's pretty nice. But it gets a little bit more interesting if you actually ask it to like build a plugin for you. So I decided to get creative and just have it make a reading time status in the bottom alongside the character count and the word count. Here's the interesting part. The CLI also exposes a screenshot mechanism. So the agent not only can like write the plugin and ask you to test it, it can screenshot the plugin that it just built, and it will screenshot the whole Obsidian window. It's using whatever is currently displayed on screen. And it was able to confirm that there's this little minutes read down here in the corner. And it validated and said, yeah, I installed the plugin. Everything's set up and good to go. I've enabled the plugin programmatically for you. Now just start using it. As soon as I open the Obsidian app, yeah, there's the minutes read, and it's calculated correctly. It's easier to make an Obsidian plugin than it is to make a Swift app at this point. I think the most interesting part of this is not the Obsidian CLI, which is very cool and helps you with app development. It's the shorthand OB CLI. This is the headless version of Obsidian that just gives you sync and publishing permissions. At first, that might sound really limited, like sync already runs automatically. It's like a background process. Why do you need a CLI that just syncs up the markdown? The answer is automations. Let me show you. Now, to use this, you'll need to install it separately. It's not built into the Obsidian package. And once you have it, you can just log in to give it sync permissions. I'm using this right now to have an agent that can work on my Obsidian notebook when I'm away from the terminal. Here's basically what I wanted to do. I take notes on my phone all the time, and usually I'm just trying to get things down. So maybe it's a note from a podcast or a person I should email that I ran into. And what I want is some sort of background process that can take these notes and enrich them in some way. A simple version of this would be tags. So if it was just able to tag topics for me or tag things as to do for me to pull into my to-do list app, that would save me a bit of time. And obviously, the goal is no context switching. I don't want to open my terminal, clone down the notebook, and ask an agent to add the tags for me. I want it to just wake up and do it. So that's where we get into cron jobs, scheduling, automations, whatever you want to call it, where maybe I set a time every day where an agent wakes up, clones down all of my notes, makes those edits by reading through the files and adding the tags, and then syncs them back up so when I wake up tomorrow, everything is there. Now, to do that, I could let an agent access my machine. It seems more and more people are doing that, but I would prefer to have this run in some sort of process that I can schedule and monitor whenever it runs, maybe be able to see it on my phone. So I'm going to go with the cloud in order to do this sort of thing, because all I need to do is create a bucket, inject a secret into that bucket with the Obsidian key, and all it does is wake up, sync the notes, read the files, add the tags, sync it back up to the remote, and then quit the process. To set that up, I'm going to use Oz, which is a scheduler that also works as a CLI, which felt very fitting for this. So the first thing you need to do is set up an environment, and I already did that previously. You can see your Oz environment list. There's the Obsidian Vault. It has some setup commands that are going to install that Headless CLI into the bucket, grab the auth token, and put it into an accessible directory, so that way it can run everything. I'm going to ask an agent to set up that scheduled job for me. Now it's going to use this CLI to sync everything up every morning-ish. You can see here what that Cloud Run did. I'm just pulling down the session. So you can see it cloned everything into that Vault directory. And after manipulating some Markdown, it can use that CLI to sync it back up to me. We take a look at one of the notes I took recently. We can see, yeah, it added tags that I didn't include when I took this note on my phone. Amazing. This is what I'm talking about when I say we need to make this data accessible without having to use whatever front end people tell you to use. You should be able to ask an agent to just update a Google Sheet without you having to click around Google Sheets. You should be able to build some scheduled automation to update your notebook without an agent having to install Apple Notes and somehow manipulate text using a cursor. It's obvious where this stuff is heading, so I'm glad that it's becoming easier and easier to set up. Okay, the last thing I wanted to try was the ramp CLI. I know that's not why you're here, but I am so curious about this. I ran auth login. It doesn't have any skills as far as I could find, and I just asked it about if I submitted a receipt for a trip that I went on recently, and it's actually able to answer these questions. So what I'm actually gonna do is ask it to submit this receipt that I pulled out of my Gmail. This feels weird. Let's see what it does. Submit this receipt for me, pulling out the necessary details. And yeah, this one is a little early, so it looks like the agent tried to file a ticket on the help center because it couldn't figure out how the API works. Oh man, maybe we shouldn't be using CLIs for everything yet. But luckily I found out that the source is publicly available. Good on you, Ramp. Actually had it clone down the open source repository. It also looked up some open API keys. Ramp does do a lot of things in public, but it's redirecting me to create the new reimbursement. It did manage to upload the receipt at least, so that saved me maybe 2 seconds of time. Still, the fact that a finance company is exposing all of this stuff for you to like pull it down and ask an agent to work for you, it's pretty crazy. Anyways, I hope that inspired you to break down that barrier you might have been putting between your development workflow and your research and everything else in your life. At a minimum, I would suggest just installing the Google Workspace CLI since you're probably working with Google Docs at some point. But Obsidian for note-taking, Ramp for finances, I guess. All these tools, I mean, they're very accessible at this point. So I would start building workflows and automations around these things to see what you can do.